月島冬子だ。冬子が亡霊になって蘇ったんだ。
Everyone rushed out to the theater. Miyuki turned on the light on the stage where they saw Oriel lying motionless under the giant chandelier. The tragedy of Fuyuko's death hung heavy over the drama club, casting a shroud of unease and mistrust. Rehearsals were plagued by tension and mistakes, as if the very air was poisoned by the ghosts of the past. "There's only one person fit to play the role of Christine," said Sendo, Fuyuko Tsukishima, whose spirit haunts this cursed play. Even with all the troubles of the drama club, the advisor in charge is determined to make the play a success for his late little sister. Oria stands alone on the stage, her heart pounding with fear. Without warning, the ominous figure of the phantom materializes above her, looming from atop the grand chandelier. She can't move. They're just practicing what happens in the play, right? Right? The death of Fuyuko Tsukishima remains shrouded in mystery. Once a bright star in her school and as the lead actress of the drama club, her passing was unexpected and tragic. It's believed that a shocking event led to her decision to take her own life, resurrecting the ominous presence known as the Phantom of the Opera, and revealing secrets that ultimately contributed to her untimely death. The Phantom of the Opera is a story about a strange and scarred musical genius who lives in the secret tunnels below an opera house. The Phantom is fixated with Christine, a young singer, but gets very angry and jealous when she starts to have feelings for Raoul, a patron of the opera. The Phantom terrorizes the opera house and eventually takes Christine away to his secret hideout underground. He shows her who he really is and tries to make her love him. But Christine doesn't love the Phantom and chooses to go back to the real world with Raoul. The Phantom is saddened by this, but ultimately gives up. He lets Christine go. He's now alone in the secret tunnels like before. The Phantom of the Opera tells a story of love, obsession, and betrayal that has captivated people for over a century. And this tragic story of the Phantom of the Opera will be acted out once again on this isolated island in Japan. And sometimes, life imitates art. Itadakimasen, the play has begun. A blood-curdling scream pierces the silence, accompanied by a deafening rumble of thunder, adding to the chaos and tension in the air. "This is a murder," declares Hajime. "No way!" The rope that held the chandelier was cut clean. Everyone was in the dining room when the incident occurred, but Chef Natsuo mentioned that there's a mysterious 12th person on the island. This person, named Kagetsu, checked in yesterday with full body bandages. Not suspicious at all, right? The only one who's seen Kagetsu is the hotel owner. Hajime remembers the owner saying that it was both happy and sad memories for the opera house. As they entered Kagetsu's room, they were met with a scene of chaos. The room was in shambles, with bandages scattered across the floor and an empty suitcase. On the wall, there was a message written in blood that read, "Burned in the flames of hell. Kishima Fuyuko, she's come back as a ghost," said superstitious Sendo. Fuse and the others panicked. They rushed to the shore to try to escape, but upon arriving, they found out that their ship had been cut loose and was now adrift on the stormy sea. It was then that they realized that they were stranded on the island with a mysterious murderer. Miyuki and Fuse shared the tragic incident with Hajime. In her final moments, she stood on her final stage, reciting the lines of the Phantom, expressing the pain and torment she felt as her final words, as if the role of the Phantom had consumed her completely. Fuyuko had tragically fallen victim to a horrific acid accident. As her skin sizzled and blistered, she realized that she would never again grace the stage as the beautiful Christine. Instead, she became the very embodiment of the Phantom, her once perfect features twisted and disfigured.
私はオペラ座の怪人ファントム。見よ、醜いこの顔。もだえ苦しみ、地獄の豪華に焼かれ、それでも私は天国に憧れる。
Why is the drama club focusing on her death so much? Asked Hajime. Kiryu, overcome with emotion, spoke about how significant Fuyuko's existence was to them. For normal people like them, Fuyuko was a star that seemed out of reach, and being by her side was a painful reminder of that. As tears welled up in her eyes, Kiryu retreated to her room for the night. People were stunned as they woke up to the gruesome sight of Kiryu's body hanging from a tree. Suicide was immediately ruled out as a possibility for her death, as it would have been impossible for her to reach the tree branch on her own. Furthermore, the chandelier drop and the hanged body were both copied straight from the play. It was clear that this was a murder. The added complexity of it being done in a locked room made it all the more perplexing. Natsuo, known for her habit of borrowing items from guest rooms, heads to the theater house to make sure all the doors are secure. But as she approaches, she hears a strange noise coming from the control room. She's curious and decides to investigate the source of the sound. As Miyuki prepares for bed, she notices that there's a leak in her room. She calls Hajime for help to fix the problem, but they quickly realize that the water is coming from the room above hers. This is strange because no one is currently staying in that room. As the water continues to flow, the color turns to an ominous shade of red. They investigate and find the chef lifeless, submerged in water, becoming the third victim of this tragic event. It appears that the events of the Phantom of the Opera story are repeating themselves. The mysterious deaths continue to pile up. Hajime disputes the theory that the chef was killed in the water, pointing out that she is still wearing her clothes and her fake nails.
I'm sorry.
Saotome whispers as she runs out of the room, her body trembling with fear, and tears streaming down her face. It's obvious that she's deeply shaken by the events that are happening on the island. It wasn't my fault, it was an accident. I couldn't beat her, I hated her. I just wanted to surprise her, that's all. That's the truth. We'd taken a small tube of acid and planned to throw it at her skirt to scare her. But when she fell, the whole bottle of acid was knocked over and poured directly onto her face. The revelation leaves Hajime in shock. It's clear that someone is seeking revenge for Fuyuko's death, but the question remains, who is behind these murders? Hajime steps out to grab a drink for Saotome. While he's getting it, he happens to come across Fuyuko Tsukushima's diary in the kitchen, thanks to the chef's tendency to go through the belongings of the guests.
I realized I think too much of R. I'm losing my head. To like a person this much, R is the reason I keep on living.
R? His lover is Fuse, not R. Kamiya Suichiro is SK. Sendo Yutake is YS. Tsukishima Ryoji is R. RT. Ayo! Hajime is suddenly interrupted by the sound of loud screams coming from the room where Saotome and Miyuki are staying. He finds the phantom has broken through the window and is threatening them, and he arrives just in time to protect them from any harm. Hajime gives chase to the phantom, but as he runs, he comes across Kamiya and the other club members. They notice that the phantom's footprints lead directly to a nearby window. As the group investigates, they find the phantom's mask and cape floating in the sea just outside the window. Everyone is relieved to think that the phantom must have jumped out and killed himself, just like in the ending of the Phantom of the Opera. However, Hajime is not convinced. He feels that something is not right. He uncovers more clues that help him piece together the mystery with the help of Miyuki. The broken shards of glass on the stage are strangely aligned, and they learn that the curtain was down when the chandelier dropped. Hajime finds Natsuo's fake nails in the control room. With each new piece of information, Hajime gets closer to solving the case and bringing the killer to justice. He then notices that the crossbow is missing from its usual place, which is the missing piece to complete his theory. As the final curtain call approaches, Hajime gathers everyone together to reveal the shocking truth behind these murders. Kagetsu, who they all believed to be dead, had never actually existed. Someone had checked into the hotel under the name Kagetsu a day before the group arrived. Kagetsu had hidden a deflated rubber boat in his suitcase, which he used to travel back to the main island. The next day, Kagetsu arrived on the island with the group. This revelation throws everyone for a loop. The first case of Hidaka Orie. Hajime explains that at the time Hidaka screamed, they were all in the dining hall and had alibis. However, it's important to note that just because they heard Hidaka scream, it doesn't necessarily mean that she was killed at that exact moment. He reveals that the scream was actually a recording made during the previous rehearsal. The killer enticed Hidaka to come onto the stage while everyone was in the dining hall. Using a timer, the killer played a recording of Hidaka screamed over the speakers, causing everyone to rush out of the dining room, providing the perfect opportunity for the killer to strike. Hajime explains that the curtain was down, and the stage was soundproof thanks to the experiment he did with Miyuki. So Hidaka didn't hear the speaker. When they heard her scream, she was still alive. The killer took this opportunity to murder her under the cover of the closed curtain. To further obscure the true events, the bell was rung to cover the sound of the chandelier crashing and Hidaka's real scream. The bell was what led everyone to the theater. The timing of finding her is a crucial part for the killer to have an alibi. After committing the crime, the killer blended in with the rest of the group and returned to the stage as if they had just arrived there. The second case of Kiryu Harumi. Hajime explains Kiryu's case. He discovered wire marks on the window outside. The killer called Kiryu that night and told her to look out the window. When she did, the killer pulled the wire tight, strangling her to death. They then used the same wire to climb down and put Kiryu's shoes on, making it look like she had walked to the tree on her own. The killer then proceeded to hang Kiryu's body on the tree. The third case of Okata Natsuo. Hajime explains that killing Chef Natsuo was never part of the killer's plan. The killer was left with no other choice but to kill her during the situation. The killer, after killing Hidaka, quickly left as to not seem suspicious when everyone gathered in the theater. The killer left one thing unfinished in the theater, and that's the recording of Hidaka's scream that was left in the control room. When the killer tried to retrieve the tape from the control room at a later time, by coincidence, Chef Natsuo was there to lock the doors for the night. She heard the sound from the control room. She went there and found the recording of Hidaka's scream still in motion on the floor. Had the killer just left her, Natsuo would eventually find out that a scream of Hidaka was recorded, quickly solving the death of Hidaka Orie. The killer had no choice but to forcefully silence her. Her missing fake nail was found in the control room, and then was brought to the water-filled bathtub to reenact the play. Who's the killer? The killer had cleverly used the knowledge of the play's ending to create a believable narrative that they had taken their own life. But in reality, they had simply vanished into the night, leaving the rest of the group in shock and disbelief. Stay where you are! He'll reveal himself when the time comes. Until then, don't move an inch. They all waited in silence. All eyes were on Hajime. Finally, you've shown yourself. What's wrong? The crossbow won't be shooting anything. Kamiya, you've set up the crossbow to automatically shoot around breakfast. That's aimed at Saotomi's chair, which you're sitting on right now. When we were chasing the killer in the hallway, he was practically pincered from both directions. After turning the corner, the killer disappeared. The footprints led to the window, as if he fell into the sea, but he made a big mistake. The window ledge was clean. From that height, it's hard to jump outside without stepping on the ledge first. The clean ledge means that Kagetsu didn't actually jump outside. He quickly took off the phantom costume and threw it outside. Then he pretended to come from the other direction and bumped into me. Stop it, Kamiya! You're only increasing your crimes. He explains that Fuyuko was the only person who truly understood him, and that they shared a special bond. Kamiya had previously been a delinquent, and had promised to never fight again after seriously injuring someone, but others continued to harass him, leaving him no peace. Fuyuko had told him that everything would be alright, and that they would be together from now on, and I won't be alone again, but now she's gone. Kamiya believes that those responsible for Fuyuko's death should be punished by dying. Kamiya and Fuyuko overheard Saotome and the others talking about Fuyuko. They showed no remorse and even celebrated the fact that the role of Christine was now within reach. The following day, Fuyuko ends it all. Upon hearing Fuyuko's final words, Kamiya resolved to seek revenge. "You're mistaken," shouts Hajime. "Fuyuko never wanted this to happen. She said this, struggling and suffering, being burned by the flames of hell. Even then, she still yearned for heaven. She said this in front of those three that she hated. Before her heart was polluted by hatred, she wanted to go to heaven, while her heart was still pure like an angel. It's too late," Kamiya whispers, as he rushes out of the window. "Being burned by the flames of hell. Even then. Please, just let me go to Fuyuko. But I probably won't make it to heaven," said Kamiya. "Even the innocent chef was dragged into this. I'm burning with a strong fire of revenge. I'm the true phantom who hides his ugly face. It's true, what the phantom has done can't be forgiven. But Kamiya, the phantom's feeling for Christine were of pure love, right? Kamiya? Kindaichi, thank you." "There's one thing I don't understand," says Miyuki. "In Fuyuko's diary, what is the meaning of R? The initials of Christine's lover, Raul. The dialogues between her and Kamiya during their first conversation, that was a secret code between them. Kamiya probably played the role of Raul, but this was never shown in the anime. Okishima Ryoji went to Kamiya's apartment and found a letter from Fuyuko that's still on the mailbox, never opened. It's Fuyuko's will for Kamiya. If Kamiya had read this, those murders wouldn't have happened."
Kamiya-kun, when you read this letter, I probably won't be alive anymore. After I heard their conversation yesterday, my heart started to be as ugly as this face. I intend to take my life before my heart completely changes. It's strange. Right now, I have neither sadness nor regret. I feel like heaven is within my reach. I'm sure it's a nice place, just like the time I spent with you. Please, Kamiya-kun, do not hate those three. I hope that one day we can live together in heaven.
The tale of Fuyuko and Kamiya left a lasting impact on me. The story is simple, a serial murderer on an isolated island, but it's more than that. The characters drop like flies with seemingly no reason at all, until we learn of that horrible accident that befell Fuyuko. The story quickly turns from a thriller horror into a sad love story as the mystery unfolds and the truth is revealed. We are hit with a series of emotional punches that leave us feeling raw and vulnerable. The story is expertly crafted to pull at our heartstrings and marinate us in the emotions of the characters. By the time the curtain falls on the final act, we are left with a sense of grief and loss for the lives that had been lost and the relationships that have been shattered. But at the same time, we are also left with a sense of hope and healing as we witness the power of forgiveness at work. It's a story that challenges us to confront the darkness within ourselves. and to find the strength and courage to forgive and move forward. It's a poignant and powerful tale that will stay with us long after we finish watching it, forever changing our perspective on love, revenge, and forgiveness. Do you have someone in your life who is waiting for your forgiveness? If so, what's holding you back from letting go of your anger and offering them and yourself the gift of forgiveness? The owner's sad memories from the theater were because of his daughter. She killed herself while rehearsing the same play, The Phantom of the Opera.